So I thought we would oh good, yeah, I've got a light here. I thought we'd start standing. We're going to sort of ease into things, but but through movement. So if you're feeling creaky, don't worry. Yeah, we might all be feeling a bit like that. So for the first thing, let's do these loose swinging twists and just use this movement to start to help us get a sense of how our body is feeling today. And it's nice to get moving, but also we might be aware of there's all sorts of strange aches and pains that can be going on with us. And like Helen said, if you're doing a lot of walking, then you may notice that in your body. So depending what you've been doing, a few more times, swinging your arms. And also as you're doing this, notice how your shoulders and arms are feeling, because we're going to do a couple more shouldery things, and if you've got either arm feeling a little bit achy, then just go easy with it. So in fact, what I'd like you to do is choose to start with your easier arm. So if one arm's a bit problematic, don't start with that one, arm or shoulder. And we're going to do these big circling movements with the arm, the easy arm first, and you can change direction frequently. And also the really important thing is to let your body move. So let your body move as your arm moves, particularly your pelvis, to help the movement of your arm. So we're trying to have this sense of our arm being connected to our body. Obviously it is connected, but often when we have shoulder problems, it's because we're moving our arm and not letting our body come along. Okay, let's swap to the other side and see how it feels, because I think we'll do this a couple of times on each side, so we don't need to stay too long. And again, remember, if one arm is really problematic, your circle can be smaller. Yeah, you don't have to go as big as possible. So you're going one way and then the other way. And that's nice, good. And then whenever you're ready, swap back to the first arm. You don't have to do loads, but just come back to the first arm again and couple of directions, circling your arm, seeing how it feels, letting your body come along. And then come back to side two a couple of times. That's nice, good. Just keeping track of what we're doing. Okay, right, let's see how it feels now to come into a forward bend. So this is going to give us a bit more information about how our lower back and the back of our legs are feeling. So have your feet a little distance apart. And then you're going to go forwards and go halfway. So you could rest your elbows on your thighs and just give yourself a breath or two here and see how your body feels. Let your head go. Notice how your lower back feels. How do the back of your legs feel? And if your lower back feels fine and you want to go further, you can then release your arms to the ground. And just, have a couple of breaths there, letting your arms hang. And being floppy, that's nice, good, very nice. So just another breath or two there, good. And then as you exhale, sink into your heels and either roll up into standing, or if that your lower back is feeling a little bit fragile, walk your hands up the fronts of your legs, good. And then just have a little bit of a shake out. And we're going to do this one where you start to reach up towards the ceiling and you might shift your weight side to side. And I'd just really like you to try and make this as enjoyable as possible. So it could be that you reach one arm up at a time, or you could reach, you're only reaching into one arm, but you could have both arms up, or you could just have one arm up. And I suppose imagine that you're stretching in the morning. And you're trying to do something that feels quite natural, quite nice in your body. Okay, that's it. Yes, and that's nice, Sheila. You can stay in the stretch for a moment. And then whenever you've had enough of this, so we don't always like to have our arms up for too long, you're going to come back into your forward bend. So back with your elbows on your thighs and then releasing to the floor if you like, and have a couple more breaths there. I'm just going to turn my heating off. I was just giving a quick blast. Good. So again, in your forward bend, checking out how do the back of your legs feel? How does your lower back feel? That's nice. Just maybe a big exhalation. So I've got to let some people in, I realise, who are in the waiting room. How remiss of me. Good. So those of you in a forward bend, come back up into standing. And yes, I'm sorry if you were in the waiting room. I didn't realise you were there. So welcome. We've just started in standing, doing a few things. So yeah, why don't we? Because we all did this right at the beginning, and then I missed out on a couple of you. So let's just come back to this loose, easy swinging twist for a moment. Although the new people have disappeared anyway. Good. So let your arms swing from side to side. And just, yeah, what's always interesting is every time we come back to a movement, it's going to feel a little bit different. So Sarah, nice to see you. Mel, nice to see you. Sorry if I left you waiting. We've just been doing a few easy things in standing. And yeah, so it might be nice for the two of you, if you've just joined, to do a little bit of swinging your arms and arriving. And that's nice, just a few times. And then what I'd like us to do in a moment, so do as much swinging as you like from side to side. What I'd like us to do in a moment is just a couple of quite simple balances to get a sense of, I suppose, how it feels today. So I always start balancing by looking down at my feet. Little distance between them, checking that they're there. And then stopping looking, maybe even closing your eyes now, and do a little bit of swaying from side to side. So we're starting really that process of dropping our attention down into our feet. So swaying a little bit from side to side, let your arm hang. And as you do this, maybe get a sense of, is there a foot that you feel more drawn to standing on? And of course, start by standing on that easier foot. So let you open your eyes now if they were closed. Let your weight, you're going to come onto the foot you've chosen to stand on. And all we're going to do with the other foot is bring that foot to stand on your chosen standing foot. And you're going to bring your hands into prayer pose. So just really simple. And see how that feels. And it's fine, if you're feeling wobbly, you can always move to a wall, or you could just bring a toe or two to the ground. And if you're settling in your balance, then just really see if you can settle and soften. So let your shoulders soften. And yeah, just let yourself be there. And notice what is in the field of your awareness. Where is your attention drawn in your body? Sometimes it's the foot. Sometimes it's the hands, or the shoulders, or the breath. Good. Very nice. Come down, have a little shake out. And then we'll try the other side. So it's just very much at the moment, you know, how is it to be bringing our weight and our attention into balancing. So again, start with that process of looking at your feet. We're not going to do the swaying this time, so we know which foot we're coming on to. So start to come onto the ball of the foot you just stood on. And then let that foot sort of sneak it off the floor, stand it on the other one. Bring your hands into prayer pose in front of you. And just let yourself settle. That's nice. Settle and breathe, and notice where your attention is drawn to. Maybe it's the foot, the shoulders, the hands. And just again, how does it feel to settle on this second foot? And certainly for me, it's the less steady foot. So maybe it all feels a little less easy. Good. Have another breath or two there. And just do come down when you're ready. I'm just paranoid of other people in the waiting room. Come down and have a little shake out. And then we're going to come back. We're going to do one more balance. So we're going to be bringing our weight onto the first foot again. and you're going to, it's a bit dark where I am, you're going to take that arm up. So come back to thinking about your first foot and reaching up through that arm. And we're going to be shifting our weight onto that leg. And from here, we're going to be catching our foot or our trouser leg, and the leg we just stood on. And yeah, see how it feels to come into this one. So we've caught our foot, we've caught our trouser leg, and then our other hand is going to come down onto our breastbone once we've had a couple of breaths. Good. And then again, just seeing how it feels to settle here. And we'll stay at this point. We'll come back to this balance a bit later on and develop it. But for the moment, just how is it to be here with your hand on your breastbone, letting your knee drop towards the floor, the bent knee, letting your shoulders soften, feeling the contact of your heel on the ground. And of course, do come down whenever you want to. I'll try and just move around and see if I can get Zoom to go a bit less dark. Oh well, do it in its own time. So let's come on to the other side when you've had a little shake out. So start to reach up with the other arm. Start to shift your weight onto the other leg and foot. So you can come onto the ball of the foot you just stood on. We're trying to sneak the other foot off the floor, the foot we're not standing on, of course. And then catching the top of the foot, catching your trouser leg, letting your knee drop to the floor, have a breath or two with your arm up. And then let your hand come onto your breastbone and just settling here. And again, if this foot is a little bit more challenging, you can always move to face the wall in these ones. So your fingertips could be on the wall rather than your breastbone, yeah? Or even, I've got a mantelpiece here. Yes, and then do come down, have a little shake out. Good. So we're going to come to moving into a sequence from the back of our mat. So this will take us down onto the floor. We'll do some familiar things on the floor, and each time it will be a little bit different. So if you come towards the back of your mat and bring your hands together in prayer pose. And so just take a moment to feel the contact of your feet on the floor, the contact of your hands. And then when you're ready, letting a breath come in. And as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Let a breath come in here, long and tall. And then just sort of bending your knees, rounding forwards, down into a forward bend. Have a breath or two there. Sarah and Mel, we've done a couple of forward bends while I had you stuck in the waiting room. So just take it easy there. And from your forward bend, you're going to be going on into dog pose when you're ready. So a couple of breaths in the forward bend, and then starting to walk your hands forwards into dog pose on the floor. And we'll have a couple of breaths in dog. Won't stay there that long. And of course, bending one knee, bending the other knee, seeing how dog pose feels. It might well feel quite creaky, the first dog pose. And then coming down onto hands and knees. And settle yourself on hands and knees, with your hands under your shoulders and your knees under your hips. And on hands and knees, you're going to do some cat movements to start with. So rounding your back to the ceiling, dipping your spine down to the floor. And cat is such a good way for us to get even more of a sense of how are we feeling around the middle of ourselves? How is our lower back feeling? And again, the first time we come and do some cat, we might be feeling a bit stiff. So just, noticing how it is without, as much as possible without judging ourselves, being kind. We can also do a little bit of tail wagging if we like that one. So pausing in the middle, imagining we have a tail and wagging our tail from side to side. Yes, you can do it quickly like that, Mel, that sort of little fit. Yes, you can also, if you like the one where you swing your lower legs from side to side, the little fishes one, you can do that. Or you can just be like, imagine you have a tail wagging it from side to side. We're then going to come into child pose. And what I'd like you to do would be to round your back in cat and then stay rounded as you rock back into child. And Settling down in child pose, just for a couple of breaths. So let your forehead rest down on the floor if it touches the floor, or on the back of your hands. And just give yourself this sort of moment of quiet where your arms can relax. And you're just settling down. Good. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then from child pose, we're going to come back up. That's right. Yes, we're going to come back up through dog pose and a forward bend and into standing. But again, take your time, because each time we come into these movements, they feel a bit better. So hands and knees, tucking your toes under, rocking your hips up and back into dog. You have some big exhalations in dog. Of course, bending one knee, bending the other, letting your head go. And from dog pose, when you've had a couple of breaths, 2 or 3 breaths, then walking your hands in towards your feet, coming into your forward bend, feeling all of the weight in your feet now. And as long as your lower back is happy for you to do this, we're going to roll up into standing with the backs of the hands touching in front of us. So we can roll up, trail our hands up the front of the body, straight up to the ceiling. Breathe in with your arms wide, and then exhale, take your arms out in a big circle. Very nice. Good. So we're going to go back down through forward bend and dog again, and then do some different things on the ground. So hands in prayer pose. Let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Drop your shoulders away from your ears, and then start bending the knees, gathering the elbows in, rolling down into a forward bend. Again, a breath or two in a forward bend, and then big handprints, walking your hands forwards into dog. And 2 or 3 breaths in dog. That's nice. Good. Good. So as we know, each time we come into dog pose, we're maybe sort of easing out a bit. Now, from this dog pose, you're going to bring your knees down onto the ground, but then we're going to step 1 foot forwards. We're going to come into this twist, which we've been doing a bit, particularly on Mondays. So you've got 1 foot stepped forwards, and remember that you've got, sorry, it's very dark in my screen. I'll try and have a fiddle around in a moment. You've got a little bit of distance sideways so you don't feel wobbly. And we're not in a lunge, it's a smaller distance between the knee and the foot. And we turn then towards this front leg, trying to really let the shoulders go. So we're upright. That's it, Sarah. So come, yeah, you're upright and you're turning towards your front leg. And you're trying to really give away the back arm. You could rest your back hand on the back of your pelvis, or just let that arm be floppy. And then we have a couple of breaths in this twist, feeling wide through the front of the chest, letting the shoulders drop. And this is quite good, again, getting into that sort of tension in the upper back. And then from your twist, you're going to untwist, and you're then going to fold forwards over your front leg, tuck your back toes under, and then walk your back leg back. So we come into more of a sort of, normal lunge. And we'll just have a few breaths in this lunge. So we're not doing anything fancy at the moment. So you've walked your back leg away. You're starting to hopefully feel that stretch through the front of your back leg thigh. And you're having a few breaths here. When you've had enough in your lunge, you're going to untuck your back toes, and then you're going to ease back. So keeping your chest close to your front thigh, you're going to rock your pelvis back and look back towards your back leg. Good. Lovely. And yes, you can come onto your heel and your front foot. And then we're going to swap legs over. So we're going to have the other foot stepped forwards to do our twist on the other side. Good. So you've organised yourself below the waist. You've got 1 foot stepped forwards. You've got your knee over your heel. And in the other side, you've got your pelvis over your knee. We're trying to feel as comfortable and steady here as possible, upright. And then we're turning towards the front leg again. So the opposite hand comes to rest on your front thigh, near the knee maybe. And the back arm, we either give that back arm away or the hand comes to rest on the pelvis. Good. And we're trying to let the back shoulder drop, sort of move back and drop. We're trying to let both shoulders soften. Very nice, Aditi, with the shoulders. Well done. Let the shoulders soften. Good. Have a breath or two here. Try to feel steady and stable. Well done. And then untwisting, folding over your front leg, tucking your back toes under, walking that back leg back. So we come more into the lunge where what we're feeling is the stretch, the lengthening through the back leg thigh. And have a couple of breaths here. 2 or 3 breaths in your lunge. That's it. Good. Good. Very nice. And then when you're ready to come out of lunge, untucking your back toes. And then you can ease back. So again, that feeling the chest stays close to the thigh. We untuck the toes, we ease back out of our lunge. Very nice. And then let's come back onto hands and knees. We're going to go back through dog pose and a forward bend and back into standing. So hands and knees, nice big handprints on the floor, tucking your toes under, exhaling. Rocking up into dog pose and just again feeling, how does dog pose feel now? Maybe it's all feeling a little bit easier, a bit more enjoyable. Let the breath come in, let it leave you. And then walking your hands in towards your feet. So we've done quite a few forward bends by now. So when you arrive in your forward bend again, how does it feel? Maybe a little bit more enjoyable, maybe a little bit easier. When you're ready to come up into standing, touch the backs of your hands together. Roll up into standing, trailing your hands up the front of your body, straight up to the ceiling. Let a breath come in, and as a breath leaves you, take your arms down and out in a big circle. Good. So we're going to go down through one more cycle of this sequence, doing some slightly different things, following on from what we've been doing. So again, settle your feet a little distance apart, hands in prayer pose. Just for a moment, connect with the movement of your breath through your body. So we're going to let a breath come in, and then as we exhale, take our arms down and then up. Let the breath come in, let the shoulders drop away from the ears, and then gather the elbows in. Bend the knees a little, roll down into your forward bend. So it's up to you how long you spend in the forward bend. So it's forward bend dog pose, and then we're going to come onto hands and knees this time. So you take your time. And wherever you are, enjoying. See if we can enjoy forward bend dog pose, yes. And being led also by our body. Wherever you are, what does your body feel that you need to do to help you enjoy it a bit more, release a bit more? Very nice. Yes, and that's right, Sheila. So when we end up on hands and knees, we're going to be revisiting cat and tail wagging. So, you know, I always find it really interesting to come back to cat after I've done some other things and really notice how the movement feels a bit easier. So obviously I can't promise that's the case for you, but that's usually what I experience. So if I felt cat, you know, if my lower back felt really tight the first time I did it, then coming back, it might feel a little bit easier. So rounding and dipping through the spine. And then also you can mix it up with a bit of tail wagging and come back to a bit of cat if you like. And remember there's the little fishes one, if you like, the one where you swing your lower legs from side to side. Just, yeah, these These nice movements that help us find a bit more mobility through the centre of ourselves. Whenever you're ready to take the weight off your arms, you're going to do a rounded cat. So round your back to the ceiling, keep rounded, rock your hips back over your heels, settle in child pose for a couple of breaths. And of course, if you prefer being in kneeling, you can always do that instead of child. So just in a place where for a moment you can be quiet, you can feel the breath come in, the breath leave you. And then from here, we're going to see how it feels to come on into our favourite plank pose. So it's probably quite good to bring your hands towards the front of your mat, so you've got room to lengthen your legs back without ending up off the back of the mat. So shoulders over your wrists towards the front of your mat, lengthening one leg back, and then the other when you're ready, and coming into plank pose, seeing how that feels. So in plank pose, really stretch your heels back away from you. So you're using your legs, that looks fantastic, Nigel, well done. You're using your legs in plank as well as your arms. Sarah, let your bottom come down there. Not Sarah Lindsay, Sarah Edwards, let your bottom, that's it, good, that's nice. And really stretch into your heels. Yeah, that's it, good, well done, lovely, lovely. You can come down from your plank when you've had enough, and you can sit back over your heels, or you can come into up kneeling and just shake your hands out. We're going to come back into lunge, and we're going to take it into a lunge twist. There's as you know, you all know this one, but there are various stages along the way. You don't have to do all of them. So we're going to step one foot forwards, and then it might be that we need to walk our foot back. So stage one, of course, is coming into lunge, and with our toes tucked under in our back foot. So that's stage one. The next stage, and I'll just swing round for this, is you want to, the opposite hand to foot needs to plant on the floor. It can either be the hand, or you can be on your knuckles, can be quite nice. And then what we're going to do, I'll swivel round again, is we're going to turn towards. So we're supporting ourselves a bit through the opposite hand or the knuckles. And then we're turning towards the front leg, which is quite challenging. You know, there's not a huge amount of space. Turning there. And I've put my hand onto the back of my pelvis for the moment. Then if you want to go further, with your back toes tucked under, you let your back knee come off the ground. So you really stretch into your back heel for that. And then if you want to go still further, that top arm can reach in the opposite direction to the back heel. So you've got this sort of long line from your fingertips through to your back heel. And don't feel that that's it, you have to do that. And remember to use your arms. So you're definitely leaning your weight through the arm that's on the hand that's on the floor, a bit like plank. Well done. Yes, do come down when you've had enough. Untwist, you can ease back a little bit. Well done. So we'll try the other side. And again, don't push yourselves with this, but equally, if you do feel that, yeah, you're ready to do it, you're wanting to do it this morning, that you can. So lunge first of all. You've stepped the other foot forwards, you've walked your back leg back. You're thinking about how can you support yourself through the opposite hand to the front foot. So it could be the hand, it could be the knuckles, could even be the fingertips, but that might be a bit challenging. And then you're turning towards your front leg. And this is tough, it's tough to sort of, can we really twist? And what we're trying to do in this pose is keep this twist. So then, if you tuck your toes under and take your back knee off the floor, are you still turning towards your front leg? Hand on the back of your pelvis, good. And then if you take your top arm in the opposite direction to your back heel, are you still turning towards that front leg? And really reaching into your back heel, reaching into your fingertips, this long line, that's nice, good. Maybe just for 2 or 3 breaths, don't overdo it. And then bottom, coming down, easing back a little bit, yeah, so we can do that, easing back out of lunge. Good, yes, and if you wanted to, we'll be coming up in a moment through dog pose, but it might be nice just to have a quiet breath in kneeling or child pose before we do that. If, like me, sort of interesting, and probably when we twist, it's harder to breathe, so you might end up a little bit wanting to catch your breath. So this is the last cycle of this sequence. So as we come up through dog pose and a forward bend, maybe stay in each of them a little bit longer, if you feel, particularly if they feel nice. Obviously, if they don't feel so good, don't stay there too long. But yeah. So tucking your toes under, rocking your hips back over your heels, coming into dog, and just, how does dog pose feel? And if it feels that you can stay in dog pose a little bit longer, if you'd like to stay there for perhaps 4 or 5 cycles of breath, you can do. And it might be also that you want to have an extra breath or 2 in your forward bend, but I think particularly dog pose now, but obviously forward bend as well if you like. Good, very nice. Yeah, and dog poses really can you feel sort of wide and as soft as possible across the back of the shoulders, resting into the arms. That's it. It starts to get a bit effortful through the arms, and that's probably a sign to move on into your forward bend. And to enjoy that feeling of your weight being completely in your legs and feet and the arms just able to hang. And then one last time we'll come up into standing by touching, you obviously stay in your forward bend longer if you like, by touching the backs of your hands together, trailing your hands up the front of your body as you roll up into standing, straight up towards the ceiling, and then arms out in a big circle. Back to standing. Good. Yeah, it's a good time for a little drink of water, Helen. I think this is, yes, I just wanted to, as we arrive, I want us to settle in standing and just briefly do a little bit of breathing before we carry on with the moving. So have a look at your feet, have your feet a little distance apart, and just settling and standing. So maybe the first thing you do is a little bit of that swaying from side to side. So you can arrive and settle in standing. So you want to really feel that your feet are underneath your pelvis so that the weight of the pelvis can drop down through your legs into your feet. And then what we're going to do is bring both hands or just one hand onto our belly. And I wanted us to do just a little bit of our kapala bhati breathing, which is the one where we breathe out and our belly moves back. So might be that you'll need a tissue at some point during this. It depends, I think. So if you need a tissue, then you get one. What I'd like you to do first is do it through your mouth. You won't need a tissue for this. So you're going to blow out through your mouth as if you're blowing out a candle, and see if you can feel your belly move back. So it's a very good way for us to get in touch with the muscles of our abdominal muscles and to get them a little bit more, lively. Let's try that now through the nose. So you're doing this short, sharp out breath through your nose, trying to feel your belly moves back. Okay, that's why you might need a tissue. And then all I'd like us to do is try and do 5 of those, with the last one being a long out breath and the belly moves back. Your in breath is just passive and it comes in naturally, so don't worry about your inhalation. So to start with, let a breath come in, and then these 5 short, sharp little breaths. The last one's a long one. Okay, very nice. We'll come back to that again once or twice more before the end of class. But let's come to a little bit now of, we're going to think about shoulders and arms again. So I'd like you just to come in really sort of a nice, easy way to swinging your arms out to the sides and crossing them in front of yourselves. And just seeing how this feels. So yeah, that's fantastic. So the most important thing here is that we're just trying to let the arms be really loose and free. And then from here, eventually you're going to swing your arms, so you're giving yourself a hug. And let's have the right arm on top, because then you don't need to worry about it. So you can go into a hug, and then yes, we can go on into your number one favourite, Helen, of eagle arms. Or for some of you, it's just we're supporting the top arm in the bottom arm. Drop your shoulders down away from your ears. Now we're going to take this into a forward bend, but if it's better, I think if you've not got your arms really sort of crisscrossed here, it might be better just to release your arms for the forward bend. You're going to step your feet a bit wider apart. So I would say take your feet as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. Sink into your heels, bend your knees a little, and then let yourself roll forwards into a forward bend. And at any point, you can just release your arms to the floor and let your arms be lovely and floppy. And just keep very, very anchored into your heels so that everything else can release forwards and soften. That's nice, beautiful. So if you haven't released your arms to the floor, might be the time now to do so. Just maybe give your arms a little bit of a sort of gentle sort of circle or swing about. And then sink into your heels, roll up into standing. And when you arrive in standing, keep your feet this wider distance apart. And we'll just go a few times from side to side into this side lengthening movement. And if you can remember from before the break, which seems weeks ago, we were letting the bottom arms swing in this one. So yeah, that's it. We can let the bottom arms swing a bit from side to side. And I'm shifting my pelvis. So as I take my arm up, I'm shifting my pelvis in that direction. I'm letting my bottom arm swing. That's really nice, lovely. So just keep going from side to side. Good, you let the bottom arm swing so it just really hangs. Wonderful. Okay, could be here all day, but probably time to move on. So step your feet back so they're a little distance apart. And come back to this side to side swinging of your arms. So it's a bit like what we were doing with both arms a moment ago. So make sure your feet are back to being a smaller distance apart now. And we're swinging both arms, crossing them in front of ourselves. And in a moment, we're going to swing them all the way. So we give ourselves a hug with our left arm on top. Unless you didn't do the right arm last time. And drop your shoulders away from your ears. And then from here, come on into whatever variation of eagle arms works for you. So it might be that you can wrap your hands around, sort of crisscross the wrists a bit, or it might be that you're supporting one arm in the crook of the other arm. And then at this point, you can step your feet wider apart, as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. Really sink into your heels, bend your knees a little bit. Folding forwards, using your arms in this position to help lengthen out your spine, or of course releasing your arms if that's better for you. Good. Keep really rooted through your heels so there's this opportunity for your spine to release forwards. Good. And then whenever you want to, if your arms are still wrapped around each other, release your arms to the ground and just sort of let the arms maybe swing a little bit, circle, so they feel very loose and free. That's nice. And then you can sink into your heels and come back up into standing. Give your feet a little shake out. So we're going to be doing, I suppose, a little mini sequence in standing now. So I've got my feet this smaller distance apart, and you will just want to have a bit of space in front of you on your mat so that you can step 1 foot forwards. Yep, so we're in this position. We've had our feet side by side. We've stepped 1 foot forwards. We've still got this side, you know, there's a bit of space, sideways space between the feet. And then this one where we're rocking our weight into the front foot, into the back foot. And as we do so, we're dropping our awareness down into our feet, feeling our footprints on the floor. Good. Now, from here, we're going to eventually take all of our weight into our front foot. We're going to come back, you can watch me for a moment, we're going to come back into this balance where we were a while ago, with catching 1 foot or the trouser leg, 1 hand on the breastbone. But this time we're going to go a bit further. We're then going to reach the foot back away behind us and the arm forwards and see how that feels, okay? So you can have a breath or two with your hand on your breastbone, you've caught your foot or your trouser leg, and then what's it like to reach your foot back behind you, away from your bottom, and reach your arm forwards. And don't worry if, like me, you're having a bit of a wobble, you can just come back, try again. If you find a place where you can have a couple of breaths, then that's fantastic. But yes, don't worry if it all gets a little bit wobbly. Good. That's nice. Wonderful. Very nice. Beautiful. Now, when you come back down, I'd like you to still have your front foot stepped forwards and your other foot back. So when we were doing our rocking. And what we're going to do is bend the front knee and then keep the back leg straight and start to fold forwards over that bent front leg. So we could start by resting our forearms on that front thigh. And then we could go lower if we like. So we're bringing our chest towards that front thigh and releasing our arms and our head towards the floor. We can have a couple of breaths. So we're in a sort of different sort of forward bend. Letting the head go, letting the arms go. Good. And then from here, we can sink into both footprints, come back up into standing. And we can move our spine in the opposite direction. So again, keep your front knee bent, keep your back leg straight. We've still got the legs organised in the same way. And we can either with 1 arm or 2 arms, just start to look up a little bit here. We'll do 2 over the board. Don't look up so far that the back of your neck is unhappy. Good. And you can have 1 arm or both arms up. It's a sort of warrior pose. So front knees bent, back leg straight. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. And then if you let your gaze come down a little bit, we can just change the arms. So we bend the elbows. We draw the elbows back behind us. And the palms face upwards to the ceiling. We really stretch our hands. And so in this one, we feel very wide across the front of the chest and the shoulder blades are moving together. Good. Very nice. Okay. And then a little bit of shake out. So before we do all of this on the other side, and it'll feel much easier because you know where you're going, we're going to come into a normal forward bend. So bring your feet back so they're a little distance apart and your feet are side by side. And then you're going to roll down into a normal forward bend. And if you feel it would be nice, you can go on from that forward bend into a squat. Doesn't matter if your heels come up, but if it would be nice for your lower back in particular, you can head on from that forward bend into a squat. So that's just, choice if you want to do that. And then you can have a couple of breaths in your squat, and then you can, so if your heels have come up, you can then start, as you start to send your heels down, you start to let your sit bones come up towards the ceiling, back into your forward bend, and then rolling back up into standing. Good. And just maybe give your legs a little shake out before we come on to side 2 of this sequence. So we're going to step the other foot forwards. Remember, you've got still a little bit of sideways distance, and then just come to this movement. So I always think this is quite soothing and calming, just this rocking forwards and back. Perhaps this time you know where we're going, so it's interesting, isn't it? You know what we're doing, but it might be less relaxing because you might be feeling a little bit of, anticipation or anxiety. Okay, so eventually from here, we're going to be rocking our weight completely onto our front foot and catching onto our back foot or trouser leg. And then bringing the other hand onto our breastbone. And just trying to settle here for a moment. So before we go any further, just try and be settled as much as possible in our balance. And then we're reaching our foot back away from our bottom and we're reaching our arm forwards. And we might let ourselves tip forwards a bit as well. And you can let your pelvis sort of roll a bit. It doesn't have to stay pointing forwards. Just sort of explore where you can go to. Well, staying balanced and enjoying it. Very nice. Wonderful. Yes, and again, if you do topple out, you can always catch your foot again and try a second time. And sometimes when we have a bit of a wobble, we can right ourselves, and sometimes we can't. Sometimes that's nice, good. Wherever you've got to, see if it's possible to breathe there. It's always helpful if that's a possibility. Very nice. So when you come back down, come back to our original starting point where you've got the leg 1 foot stepped forwards, the same foot stepped forwards. And then we're letting the front knee bend and we're starting to fold forwards over that bent front leg. So it might be resting your elbow sort of on your thigh. And it might be, if you like, going a bit further. So your chest comes closer to that thigh, your arms release to the floor. You're stay anchored through your back heel. So your back leg is straight. Your back heel is sinking into the ground. You're letting your head and your arms go. You're having a couple of breaths here. And then coming back up, sinking into both footprints, rooting down into your heels. When you arrive back upright, again, your back leg is still straight, your front knee's bent. We start to bring our arms up, one arm or both arms. You could have one hand on your breastbone. We start to let our gaze travel up a little bit, but obviously not so far that our neck feels uncomfortable. Good. We'll have a couple of breaths here, wide in the front of the chest. And then I always at this point then let my gaze come down slightly and then bring the arms down and the elbows are bent, drawing back, palms of the hands facing up. So we feel wide in the front of the chest. Good. Very nice. Lovely. And then just a little bit of a shake out. So let's one last time come into a forward bend in standing, and then we'll revisit our kapala bhati breathing and then come out of standing. So just bring your feet back side by side, let yourself fold forwards and make this forward bend as enjoyable as possible. Yes, absolutely, you can go on into a squat if that would feel good in your lower back. You don't have to. Yes, that's nice, Sheila. You could be doing those weeping willow side to side movements in your forward bend. So it's lovely to see you doing some different variations in your forward bend to enjoy it as much as possible. And yeah, anyway, this is the most important thing, that we try to be led by what our bodies want and need when we're practicing. So stay in your forward bend or your squat as long as you like. That's very nice, Sarah, wrapping your arms around the back of your knees. Beautiful. And yes, whenever you have had enough, you can stay in your forward bend longer, but whenever you have had enough, rolling back up into standing. And then we'll finish off our time in standing by just settling in standing and then coming back to our kapala bhati breathing. So start by looking at your feet parallel, feet a little distance apart, maybe a little bit of swaying. Let your arms hang perhaps to start with, just a little bit of swaying from side to side. Good. Yeah, a little bit of swinging's nice, Sarah, lovely. And then gradually settling into standing, reducing the movement, bringing your hands or one hand onto your belly. And let's just again do 5 kapala bhati breaths through our nose if we can. The 5th one is a long one, so we let a breath come in. Good, very nice. And actually maybe do a second, I think, yeah, do a second cycle of 5. So we'll do that here rather than in a different position. So let a breath come in again. Good. So what we're going to do now is you're going to make your way down onto the ground into cobbler pose. So you could go down through a forward bend and a squat and into cobbler pose. You could go down through dog pose, or you could actually just sit down. So we've done quite a lot of those things. So we're just going to do a little bit in sitting, and then you'll get a chance to lie down. So we're coming into cobbler pose. We're leaning back onto our hands when we get there. There's no particular rush. And you're just seeing, when you do arrive in cobbler pose, you're just seeing how it feels today. And, you know, depending what we've been doing, it can feel quite a bit of a stretch on the inner thighs. And I'm sort of interested because when I was doing this before you all joined me on Zoom, it was feeling a lot tighter. So maybe from the movement we've done, it's okay. So yeah, from leaning back on the hands, we'll, I think, then move on into our pinwheels. So let one leg come on top of the other leg and let your top leg slide back. And then come to a bit of circling here. So these nice familiar movements. Do a little bit of circling, and then we'll come into our pinwheel forward bend in a moment and just settle there. So turning towards our knee that's going out to the side, and then folding down over that leg, just settling down however feels comfortable. And once you're settled in pinwheel, then gathering your attention to your breathing, just feeling the movement of your breath in your body, letting the weight of your body settle down onto the ground. Let your shoulders soften as much as possible wherever you are. You could be resting on your forearms. Yeah, you could. Some of you might find your forehead comes to the ground or to the back of your hands. It doesn't matter how low you go. What's important is just this encouraging ourselves to soften and settle and rest. Maybe have 2 more cycles of breath in your pinwheel if that feels okay, in your pinwheel forward bend. So letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then walking your hands in towards you. We can lean onto the arm of the leg we just folded over, and we can then slide that top leg back. So we're in sort of side sitting, and then let's open out into cobbler pose. And so I generally find if I've done one side of pinwheel, this is maybe when I'd like to stay in cobbler pose a little bit longer. So you could be leaning back. You might be holding your feet to your ankles. We can do a little bit of rocking. We can do rocking with our feet, our hands beside us, or with our hands on our feet or our ankles. So a little bit of rocking from side to side. Not sure what's going on with you, Otto, today. Yes, so a little bit of rocking. Up, up, up. out of the way. And then you could do a little bit of, perhaps these are all suggestions, a little bit of circling. So I'm going to get Otto off the sofa. You're not going on there. Off. Off. Get off. On your bed. A little bit of circling. And the other one would be a little bit of these sort of side lengthening ones where we lean onto one hand and we can reach up and over with the other arm. So again, all of these things are options. Don't have to do any of them. It might be that one feels particularly good. Okay. And then we'll make our way over onto side 2 of pinwheel. So we can lean towards the other side. Bring the top leg over, then slide the top leg back. Come to a little bit of circling before we settle in pinwheel. So the circling is to encourage us to help us settle. And again, it's maybe soothing, just these little rhythmic movements. And then when you're ready, you're turning to face your knee that's going out to the side. You're then seeing how it feels to fold your body over that leg. And it might be your hands are on the floor, it might be your elbows are on the floor, it might be your forehead is on the floor. It doesn't matter. Just wherever you are, it's then that sort of softening, settling, feeling the movement of your breath through your body. And just, yes, resting and breathing for maybe 2 or 3 more cycles of breath. And whenever you've had enough, you can then walk your hands in towards you, come back upright. And just before we lie down, and indeed it is nearly time to do that, before you lie down, I thought it might be nice to lean back on your arms and just lengthen your legs out. They could be long in front of you, or if you're someone who likes to take them wide, they could be wide. And yeah, so we're going to be lying down in a moment. If you're someone, looking at Mel, who likes the sort of wide sitting position and wants to have a couple of breaths here before you lie down, you can do. If you're just thinking, I want to be lying down now, put on your warm things and settle down onto your back. So, yeah. And then, of course, when you do arrive on your back, there's that that lovely moment when you're like, I'm lying down. How nice is this? And especially today when we haven't done any lying down and we've been fairly lively, we can just think, oh, yes, lying down. What greater pleasure can there be? So I think lie down and just, enjoy it for a couple of breaths. We will do a couple of simple twisty things on our backs, but first of all, just, lie down, enjoy the lying down. And while you're lying down and enjoying the lying down, you could be letting your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left and noticing how your neck feels. Easing your head from side to side. And then settle your head in a comfortable place in the centre. And then you can bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor if your legs are long. And then just come to that very simple movement of letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. That's nice, lovely. And then it might be that you would like to pause in the center, take your feet a little bit wider, so they're as wide as the narrow edge of the mat. And then you can do a bit of tilting your knees from side to side with your feet a bit wider. And you could just carry on letting the knees go from side to side, or you could let them go all the way down to one side and have a couple of breaths there. So just, yeah, again, see what feels right for your body just now. And obviously, if you let your knees come down to one side, you're going to do that on both sides for a few breaths. And it's quite nice if the knees are going on one side that your head rolls in the opposite direction. So that's lovely. And then finally, yes, that's a good idea, Mel. Finally, before we lie down, you might like to fold both knees into your chest. Do a little bit of rocking from side to side. That's it. A bit of rocking from side to side, and then a little bit of taking your legs up to the ceiling and shaking them out. And then we will settle quietly. And I say quietly with some hesitation. I've got very kind builders next door who've stopped the noise until the end of the class. But if they suddenly start up, which is very, very kind of them, if they suddenly start up, then yes, I might end things. It's very quiet at the moment. So when you've done, yeah, that's it. When you've done a little bit of rocking, you're taking your legs up to the ceiling, then settle yourself down on your back, and we'll just have a minute or two of lying, hopefully quietly, resting. So yeah, put on any things you need to be warm. Lying quietly, resting. Maybe feeling the flow of our breathing through our body. Also, you can be aware of the contact of your body on the ground, aware of the light, the sounds around you, the presence of other people or animals. Just allowing yourself to rest. Rest and be aware at the same time.
Thank you, everyone. Need to rush up. You might need to rush up. Thank you. Just feeling that on borrowed quiet time. Thank you, everyone.